I stood in the doorway, my heart pounding with a mix of dread and excitement. The sun had dipped beneath the horizon, spilling shadows across the dining room as the smell of roasted chicken wafted from the kitchen. It was the family dinner, the one time a week my parents gathered us all together. My mother was bustling around, wiping down the already polished table, while my father, seated with a newspaper, only half paid attention. My brother and sister were already at the table, absent-mindedly scrolling through their phones, the glow of their screens reflecting off their faces, a reminder of the distance growing between us all. I could not shake the feeling that tonight would be different, that tonight something would change. "Amelia, are you just going to stand there?" my mother called, a hint of irritation creeping into her voice. "Come help me set the table." "Yeah, I'm coming," I replied, shaking my head slightly to clear the fog of anxiety that threatened to swallow me whole. I walked over to the dining room table, my palms sweaty against the cool, polished wood. My sister glared at me when I accidentally brushed against her arm. I could practically hear the silent judgment in her eyes. "What are you doing?" she mouthed, arching an eyebrow. The message was clear, she wanted me out of her space. "Hey, be nice," my brother said, looking up from his phone, the screen casting a harsh blue light across his face. "This is a family dinner after all." I rolled my eyes. I wanted to tell him that his sarcasm was unwelcome here, but it was better to stay silent. I could feel the simmering tension in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. Everyone was acting normal, but I knew that underneath our polite smiles was a volcano ready to erupt. Dinner commenced, and as we each took our places around the table, I could feel my heart racing with anticipation. My parents were in the midst of their usual back and forths, my mother joking about my father's obsession with obscure documentaries while he rolled his eyes, clearly unamused. "You just do not appreciate the finer things in life, Janet," he retorted, taking a big bite of the chicken. His voice boomed with authority even when he was teasing. "Not everyone wants to watch reality shows about people who just stare at each other all day." "Reality shows?" my sister chimed in, her eyes gleaming with undisguised enthusiasm. "Like the ones with the rich people showing off their ridiculously lavish lifestyles? That is so entertaining." She giggled, but her laughter felt hollow to me. I glanced at my brother, who was using his fork to push peas around his plate, a distant look in his eyes. "Rich people. They are not half as interesting as us," I said lightly, trying to break the ice, but my own words tasted bitter on my tongue. It was a thinly veiled jab at our family's current state, the tension thickening as layers of resentment built up over the years. "Interesting or not, it is better than watching you mope around, Amelia," my sister shot back, her tone drenched in mockery. "Honestly, who cares about your endless whining? Some of us have actual lives." My breath caught in my throat. Just like that, she slapped my insecurities into the open, like peeling the plaster off an old wound. "I am not moping," I managed to reply, though my voice threatened to crack. "I am just trying to figure things out." "Figure what out? Who the latest guy you are dating is going to be?" my brother scoffed, finally taking an interest in the conversation. "That's a concern nobody cares about. Get real." I clenched my fist under the table, the anger boiling up inside me. For years, I had felt pushed aside, as if I were nothing more than a shadow flickering at the edges of our family circle, an afterthought they all conveniently forgot. "Can we please change the subject?" I demanded, my voice rising slightly. "Why, we are just having some fun," my father said, trying to lighten the mood, but his eyes darkened as he glanced between my siblings and me. "We're all family here, right?" "Family?" The word tasted sour in my mouth, as if I had bitten into a spoiled piece of fruit. "What kind of family ignores the person who has always been there for them?" Silence settled briefly over the table, my question hanging in the air like an uninvited guest. My mother, sensing the tension, rubbed her temples and waved her hand dismissively. "Amelia, don't bring up old issues. We are trying to enjoy dinner." "Old issues?" I could hardly believe my ears. "You mean the issues where you, the people I have always been there for, chose them over me? That kind of old issues?" My voice rose higher than I intended, catching the attention of my grandmother, who had been conversing softly with my grandfather at the other end of the table. The room fell into a thick silence. I could see the gears turning in my father's eyes, the anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "That is not fair. We have been trying to include you, but you never come to any family gatherings. You isolate yourself." He was standing his ground now, old habits emerging as he turned the tables on me. I felt the heat of embarrassment creeping up my neck. "Include me or just tolerate me?" I spat back, my voice trembling. "There is a difference. You know what I think? I think you just want to play the victim. It is always about you, Amelia. When are you going to grow up?" my brother added, crossing his arms. "Why do you all make me feel like I am in a constant battle for your approval?" My palms were clammy against the table, and I gripped it tighter, feeling the stress and frustration radiating from my fingertips. "Do you think it is easy watching you all live your perfect lives while mine crumbles? It is exhausting." The anger radiating in the room was palpable. My mother's sharp intake of breath signaled that her patience had been worn to a fraying edge. "Enough, this is getting us nowhere. We are family, damn it. Can we not have one night without this drama?" I swallowed hard, the knot in my throat almost choking me. I could feel my grandfather's disapproving gaze and wished I could melt into the ground beneath me. Everyone at the table was quiet now, the air thick with tension, deep breaths mingling with the anxiety buzzing around. "Did any of you even think for a second about how what you said affects me?" I felt a sense of determination creeping in, bubbling up like a volcano ready to erupt. "Do you really think these insults are going to fix anything? Or push me away even further?" Well, it seems to work, doesn't it? My father's voice boomed again. You are the one distancing yourself, Amelia. You always think the world revolves around you. Maybe I feel cut off because I am not the favorite, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Favorite? The disbelief in my sister's voice cut deeply, and I could see her expression shift, lips pursed in annoyance. Mom and Dad don't even have a favorite child. You seriously need to grow up. My mother's face was flushed. This is ridiculous, all of this arguing. We are family, we are supposed to support one another. But I shook my head, feeling my resolve harden. I was tired of being the punching bag, the outsider in my own family. Just as I was about to respond, my phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a message that made my heart race, and I quickly glanced at the screen, overwhelmed. It was a notification about the inheritance my grandparents had promised years ago. The words last will and testament flooded my mind, and I felt a chill wash over me when I realized what this meant. This was it. This was the moment I had been waiting for clarity. I need to check this, I am sorry, I said abruptly, scrambling up from my chair. A million thoughts raced through my mind, the intensity of the moment nearly paralyzing. I was desperate to escape the suffocating atmosphere of the dining room. As I turned to leave, my father's voice stopped me in my tracks once more. Amelia, I turned, my heart pounding loudly in my ears. What? You can't just walk away from your family like that. You need to talk to us, not run away. We are here for you. In what way? By constantly criticizing every move I make, I shot back. You're only here to remind me how inadequate I am. Tears pooled in my eyes. Amelia, you need to stop acting like the victim. The tone in his voice felt like nails scraping on a chalkboard, and my chest tightened as I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. I could feel my sister rolling her eyes again as I paused, suddenly realizing that they would never truly understand. I suddenly felt so far away from them, surrounded by a thick fog that hung over the family table. Maybe it is time for me to stop waiting for you all to approve of me, I replied, finally finding the courage to voice the deepest fear that had haunted me for years. With that, I pushed away from the table and dashed down the hall, my heart racing. I needed to leave this weight behind, needed to take control. As I reached the door to the backyard, I heard my grandfather's voice piercing through the heaviness. Stop her, we need to talk. But I was already out the door, the cool night air hitting my face like a refreshing splash of water. I inhaled deeply, letting the chaos behind me hush as the stars flickered overhead. My fingers clutched my phone, still buzzing with notifications, a reminder of the choices ahead. As I stood outside, my heart racing with determination, everything crystallized for me. Somehow I would find a way to make things right in my own way. The family connection might have frayed and transformed into resentment, but one thing was clear: this was only the beginning. I would have my voice, and I would make sure my story was heard. I took a step forward, breathing deeply, ready for whatever revelations awaited, the sounds of my family's disagreements fading into the night behind me. I would not be the one left behind any longer. The day was eerily quiet. I had just stepped into my parents' home, the very place where laughter used to fill the air, where Sunday dinners became family traditions, now transformed into a pressure cooker of unspoken tensions. The aroma of my mother's famous lasagna wafted through the air, a bittersweet reminder of better times, and I couldn't help but feel a knot twist in my stomach. The dining table sat laden with the cheesy goodness, the rich tomato sauce glistening under the dining room lights, yet I had little appetite as I faced the icy silence that now defined our family. As I walked into the dining room, my mother glanced up from her cooking. The look in her eyes was a mix of relief and something else. Was it guilt? Before I could dwell on it, my father entered, his footsteps heavy against the hardwood floor as if he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. My brother and sister were already seated at the table, and I felt their eyes upon me, surveying me like I was the misunderstood character in a poorly written play. Dinner is ready, my mother announced, her voice tinged with a hint of forced cheerfulness. The tension coiled tighter in the air as I slid into my seat, the chair grating against the floor. My sister smirked slightly, her lips curling in a way that reinforced my feeling of being the odd one out. Looks fantastic, Mom, I said, forcing a smile onto my face. The lasagna was my favorite, but as I poked at it with my fork, I noticed it was missing the extra layer of cheese that my mother usually added for good measure. Did you forget the extra cheese? My mother, looking flustered, quickly glanced at my father, who had already plunged into his own plate, ignoring the question. My brother shifted in his chair, rolling his eyes as if I had just shared the greatest disappointment of the year. Seriously, Amelia, it's just lasagna, he scoffed, his tone dripping with dismissal. The air thickened, his words felt like arrows aimed straight at my chest. It's about the little things, I replied, my hands clenching around my fork, my voice quieter yet still defiant. Did he really think he could belittle me? I felt my heart racing, but I also noted a new determination swelling inside me. I was done being a footnote in this family story. How is that new job of yours? The one that's keeping you so busy, my mother asked, her eyebrow arching slightly in an attempt to stir the conversation into safer waters. It's going okay, I hesitated, the weight of my unshared reality crashing down on me. Just a few weeks earlier, I had been excited to share my achievements at the marketing firm, but what would it matter now? I felt cut off from my own family, as if they chose to look right through me. Things are a bit unstable right now, the team is restructuring. Sounds like an excuse, my brother interjected, his eyes gleaming with the relentless urge to mock. Maybe if you weren't so busy trying to prove something, you'd actually keep a steady job. I felt my cheeks flush as I grappled with his words, the sting of their truth threatening to push me over the edge. I wanted to scream that I already had enough of my own pressures without him adding to the pile. My mother's gaze flicked to my brother, her expression surprisingly firm. That's enough. You all know Amelia is doing her best, right? Her voice softened, almost pleading. That's what family does, we support each other. Was support really the word for it? I studied her face and felt the cracks forming in our connection. Moments like these felt more like a performance, a series of rehearsed lines in a family drama that I never wanted to star in. My thoughts whirled violently as my brother merely shrugged, playfully rolling his eyes to the ceiling like he always did when a topic got too uncomfortable. That must have hurt, my sister chimed in, a devilish glint in her eyes as she tried to provoke me, keen on nudging the chaos. I heard the marketing industry is cutthroat. Pretty much your whole career is on shaky ground with these restructures. Guess we should have seen where your priorities lie. I could feel the tension in my chest rise into my throat, squeezing. What's that supposed to mean? I spit back, the sharpness of my voice piercing through the lingering fog of the room. I met my sister's eyes, a mix of challenge and something else, perhaps it was jealousy. Is it wrong that I want to grow in my career instead of settling for less? It is when you ignore your family for it, she quipped dismissively, brushing off the very core of my frustrations. I felt as if she had sliced into a very tender part of me and I went pale. Did she really think she spoke the truth? Enough, my father bellowed suddenly, silencing us. His face was taut, eyes hardening like steel. The atmosphere grew thick with silence, each of us swallowing our thoughts, waiting to see which fire he would stoke next. We came here to eat, not to argue. I sat back in my chair, both relieved and anxious. Maybe this was the last family dinner we would ever have, and all of us could feel the distance looming like an uncrossable chasm between us. I'm sorry, Dad, I said quietly, eyes cast downward, unable to look at any of them, yet my father's voice softened, the weight lifting slightly. Amelia, do you really have to take everything so personally? Family is more than just a dinner, you should know that. I needed him to understand. I wanted him to see that it wasn't just me who was struggling. Each of us felt the strain, yet we never acknowledged it. Finishing dinner was a blur. I pushed my food around my plate, forcing myself to swallow bites that felt like bricks in my throat. I expertly avoided my family's gazes as I wanted nothing more than to shout out my own thoughts, to be real for once. Every time I opened my mouth, a kaleidoscope of emotions raced through my mind. Finally, my sister stood, leaning over her chair slightly, a smirk plastered on her face. I'm going out with friends. This family meeting is too much drama for me, she chirped, a twinkle of satisfaction glinting in her eyes. Great, I hope you pick the good ones. I'm tired of you picking the wrong crowd, my father muttered under his breath, the frustration evident in his tone. How could he say that when we were all hanging onto the edge of this family drama? It felt as if we were each holding pieces of glass, unwilling to hand them to one another for fear of cuts and wounds. It can also be your fault that this is a disaster, I mumbled, my voice barely escaping as my brother snorted at my remark. She's right, you know. The family gathering is your job, Dad, my brother teased, earning a chuckle from my mother, who was frantically gathering the dishes. I stood, a wave of heat washing over me as I mirrored my sister's exit. Where exactly do you think you're going? My mother asked, catching me off guard. I need some air, I replied shortly, refusing to show my vulnerability in a space now charged with sarcastic undertones. I was their punching bag and it was becoming unbearable. The chilly night air hit me like an icy slap when I stepped outside. I leaned against the porch railing, taking deep breaths to fill my lungs, grounding myself in this moment that felt steeped in despair. I could hear the muffled conversations drifting from the dining room, punctuated by laughter and taunts that spurred a mix of longing and anger in my chest. Why am I always the bad guy? I wondered aloud, gripping the railing tightly. The shadows of trees danced against the moonlight, and I felt that while I was out here in the dark, they were inside, reveling in the pain they inflicted. My phone buzzed violently in my pocket, jolting me from my thoughts. It was a message from my close friend, someone who honestly seemed more like family at this point. Let's meet up soon, I'm worried about you, it read, bringing a small flicker of warmth to my heart. I pondered how things used to be, comforted in the familiarity of family dinners. Yet where once was laughter, there were now chasms filled with ice. It was not just the resentment, it was deep-seated incompetence, the feeling that we were stuck fighting against one another instead of for one another. Turning back towards the house, I hesitated. My heart raced, part of me wanted to announce that I was no longer their pawn, that I was taking charge. But as I stood there, I could hear voices moving in a different direction unchecked. I knew they would continue to view me as the underdog, the one who fell behind. After tonight, though, I made a choice. It was about time I turned this family drama into my own story. Taking a deep breath, I realized that the next family gathering would be different. I would confront my fears, challenge their perceptions, and take charge of the narrative they held so tightly in their grasp. With my heart pounding with determination, I decided it was time to turn the simmering conflict into catharsis, and the fight had only just begun. And with that, I slammed the door behind me, my teeth grit as shocked silence fell over the room. The air in the living room felt thick with tension as I stood there, clutching the edge of the wooden table, my knuckles turning white. My mother had always boasted about how important family was, yet here we were, submerged in a whirlpool of secrets and betrayal. My brother and sister flanked me, their eyes swirling with confusion and distrust, mirroring my own heart's chaotic rhythm pounding in my chest. I glanced at the family photo hanging on the wall, my father, my mother, my brother and sister, and me, all smiles captured in that perfect moment. Little did we know that the cracks were already forming beneath that glossy surface. What do you mean you are cutting me out? I finally managed to voice the question, my voice trembling with disbelief. The words felt like knives slipping out of my mouth, sharp and painful. It had only been a week since I had been blindsided by a letter from my father, handwritten in that familiar scrawl that now felt foreign. He had spoken of a new direction and his desire to make things fair. The irony hung over me like a dark cloud. Do you really not understand? My brother said, his voice rising. He leaned forward, fists clenched. Dad is just trying to make things simpler. He feels that giving everyone equal shares is what's best. The bitterness in his tone echoed around the room, and I felt my heart drop. Equal shares? I shot back, disbelief coloring my words. You and my sister have gotten everything while I've been left to fend for myself. I could hear the sharpness in my own voice, but it felt justified. Why did I have to fight for a place in the family when we shared the same blood? The memories of being the one always on the sidelines flooded back. The lavish birthday parties, the vacations where my brother and sister were the stars of the show while I clutched a cheap camera capturing their moments. I felt a simmering rage bubble within me. Now, let us keep our voices down, my mother interjected, her tone laced with an anxiety that only heightened the tension. She stood between us, her hands raised in a placating gesture, but I could see her hands shaking slightly. The vibrant shade of her lipstick, usually bright and confident, seemed to touch off today, and that made me wonder how she was really handling all this. While she wanted calm, I felt stormy. Mom, how can you be okay with this? You have seen how he treats me, I said, hoping it would spark something in her, maybe a flicker of loyalty. I have always done what he asked. I carried the burden of family drama whenever there was an issue, and now he just throws me aside like I am nothing. Honey, he isn't throwing you aside, my sister stepped in, her voice deceptively calming, but I sensed the underlying hostility. It's just business. He has to think about the future and his investments. Think about what he is trying to do for all of us. We can't be selfish. Selfish, the word cut deeper than any knife could. I felt my chest tighten as if she were physically squeezing the breath from my lungs. Selfish, I echoed, my voice sharper. Let us talk about selfish, shall we? How about the countless times I helped take care of Granny while both of you were out having fun? Or the time I sacrificed so much of my own life for this family? Was that selfish? Images flooded my mind, Granny in her fading years, sitting in the garden while I would read to her. Those were the moments that nourished me, the real treasure, but my family had failed to recognize them. Enough, my brother shouted, something in his voice breaking. This is not a children's playground. High time you understand the stakes we are dealing with. His face flushed a beet red. Dad has properties, investments, you know how much your share is calculated. He leaned in, each word dripping with disdain. It is $50,000 more than what many people ask for, purely a numbers game. My mind raced. $50,000. Sure, it sounded like a lot, but it was a pitiful sum considering what I was owed. My heart was racing, anger mixing with disbelief. He spoke of numbers as if they were the sole measure of our family ties. I had always known that I had to fight for my place here. With every argument, every subtle jab, the family had edged me closer to the door. I was left panting at the threshold, begging for a seat at the table. Are you really that naive? I shot back, tiring of their dismissive attitudes. You think a few dollars can replace the love, the loyalty I have given? It's not just about money. It is about the legacy, about who we are as a family. The tension in the room thickened, and I could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down on me. My hands began to tremble, and I could not tell if it was from the anger boiling within or the realization that I might very well be an outsider in my own family. I could feel my heart racing, each beat echoing the years of feeling belittled, ignored, like I was the invisible one in a room full of tyrants. I can't believe you would turn over everything so easily, I breathed, rising from my chair. What about grudges? What about the years we have spent fighting for what is right? All of those moments, did they mean nothing to you? Don't you see? My sister waved her arms dismissively. This is a solution so much simpler than all that drama you keep dragging in. Cut emotional ties, establish fairness in what is owed. It is for the best. Best for who? I shot back, flaring my nostrils. You and him, is that it? You both want to see my mother's dreams reduced to mere numbers, cut in half when the time felt right. I felt my voice rising, the room dimming as faces turned to each other, questioning who was to turn rogue in this bitter affair. I am just trying to help this family. My brother's voice cracked, there were cracks in his armor. I felt a flicker of something, maybe remorse in his eyes, but it was drowned out by my growing indignation. How could my brother honestly believe he was just helping? Each passing second felt suffocating. Helping? Let me tell you what helping feels like, I spat, my voice rising. Helping feels like being there during rough patches, supporting each other, standing together, not whittling away our shared history because it might save you a few headaches. Helping feels like family. I wanted to feel that unity, and instead I get thrown into the lion's den. The silence stretched long and uncomfortable, my accusation hanging over us like a storm cloud. I watched as my sister's eyes flickered between anger and confusion, processing the truth I had just named, a truth that had always loomed over us. You think this is easy for me? My brother finally whispered, his voice choking. You have no idea what it took to get to this point. You think I enjoy this. What you enjoy is keeping your crown while I fight for scraps, I shot back. You and my sister have been the golden children, the ones who never had to question their place. I have always been overshadowed, living in a shadow so deep you cannot see it. You do realize what Dad's been saying, my sister retorted, tapping her foot impatiently. He has always favored you. I grew up in your shadow and now you play the victim. The words landed like fists, each strike pushing me closer to the edge. Favoritism doesn't even come close, I screamed, feeling the hot rush of anger. It is the power dynamic that has kept me here on the fringes. I am done. My chest heaved with each breath, and I felt as though I were standing atop a cliff ready to plunge into the depths below. My heart raced with desperation, but I could taste freedom whispering from the edge. Why can't you just accept the reality? My brother's voice shook. You are strong, you've always been. Just see that this is the end of a chapter and you can begin another one. It's not personal. Not personal? You think any of this is not personal? I clenched my fists, feeling a fire ignite inside me. It feels deeply personal to me. It always has. And it will never not be until I take back what was taken from me. The door clicked open behind me, the creak echoing through the silent room, and time seemed to freeze for a brief moment as my grandfather shuffled inside, his presence magnifying the already loaded atmosphere. The scent of old wood and lavender clung to him like a protective shroud, bringing a momentary calm. I caught his eye and everything inside me shifted. There is noise. What is happening here? He asked, his voice a low rumble, shaking us from our emotional standstill. My heart twisted as I glanced around, horrified at the thought of involving him in our mess. The last thing I wanted was to drag him into our toxic drama, but the air was too thick to breathe. Someone had to know. Nothing that concerns you, grandfather, my sister rushed, trying to dismiss the mounting storm of our emotions swirling around us. Just family matters. Family matters. What family? His deep-set eyes narrowed, searching us each with the intensity of a hawk. When a family stops communicating, it becomes a collection of strangers. Now speak. As the heavy weight of his gaze settled on me, I felt my chest constrict, and every secret I had buried deep inside swam to the forefront. Grandfather, they are siding with Dad on the family inheritance, and I am cut out of everything. I felt raw, exposed, each word tearing down walls that I had built painstakingly, brick by brick. Grandfather's brow furrowed deeply, a contemplative silence following. Cut out, that sounds unimaginable. I suspect there is more than meets the eye. The authority in his voice drew a shroud over our tensions, forcing my brother and sister into uncomfortable stillness. Grandfather, they're saying it is business, I protested. To them, it's just dollars and cents. And to you, he challenged gently. Everything, I whispered barely above a breath, fumbling for words. It is about family and memories. It is everything I have worked for, everything that makes me who I am. A deep, quiet contradiction hung between us all like a whisper for justice that demanded attention. I could feel my heart racing and sweat beating at the edges of my brow, but a new determination swelled within me. This was my moment, and I refused to let it slip away. Your grandfather deserves to hear more than that, my brother said with incredulity, his anger displaced. What have you been doing? I have been fighting tooth and nail, and I began to realize that this isn't just my battle anymore. It's about exposing truths once hidden, about reclaiming what others deem to overlook. I felt a smile spread across my face, the tension in the room like flickering electricity, building to something monumental, something we could not avoid any longer. Grandfather, it seems our family has fallen apart due to secrets, I continued, emboldened. Is that what we want? Let us face our truths head on. But before I could continue, he nodded solemnly and stepped back, allowing silence to permeate our crumbling fortress. The ground beneath us felt uncertain, as if it could crack open at any moment. You must decide how you wish to fight this battle. The world out there is not fair, he finally said, his voice gravelly yet soothing. But you are a Bennett. Your resilience has been demonstrated throughout generations. The intensity of his words struck me, a deep-rooted spark punching through my fog of anger. This was my time. I wasn't stepping back just because they held financial power over me. I will not stand down, I stated, my voice steady and unwavering. This family may have been shattered into a million pieces, but I will gather them together, or at least I will fight for what's rightfully mine. The moment hung in the air as I caught my mother watching me intently, her eyes shifting between confusion and concern before settling on the determination burning in my own. But just then the door slammed shut behind grandfather, leaving us in stunned silence. The echoes of the confrontation between my family and me seemed louder than ever, blending with memories of love and betrayal that tightened my throat. I did not know how this would end, but the resolve in me surged. We had possibly crossed an invisible line, a chasm of trust and loyalty. Yet I was ready to cross whatever bridges it took, ready to confront every challenge as it approached, whatever the cost. And as I stood there amidst my brother's sullen gaze and my sister's haughty dismissal, I knew one thing for sure. The battle for our family was only just beginning, and nothing could ever amount to what was truly at stake. Here I stood in the dimly lit living room, the familiar scent of my mother's lavender candles mingling with the distant sound of rain tapping against the window. My heart raced as I waited for my sister to arrive. Tonight was going to be pivotal, our final confrontation before the family inheritance meeting next week. The table was set for dinner with its usual flair, the fine china gleaming, silverware polished, and an array of dishes laid out like offerings on a sacred altar. But the atmosphere was thick with tension, palpable like the humidity in the air. When the door creaked open, my sister stepped in, shaking off her umbrella. For a moment it looked like she might smile, but then she spotted me and the warmth fled her face. "You're here early," she said, voice testing the waters, but her tone sounded guarded. "I wanted to talk before dinner," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. There's a lot on the line right now. She crossed her arms, shifting her weight to one foot as if preparing for a fight. Are you really going to drag this out now? I thought we agreed to keep it civil until after the meeting. I felt a wave of frustration wash over me, tinged with betrayal. Civil, is that your way of saying that I should just accept being cut off? Do you really think it is fair that you are inheriting the house and everything else just because father always favored you? Her face went pale, an angry flush creeping up her cheeks. This is ridiculous. Why can't you just be happy for me? I'm the one who took care of father when he was sick while you were off living your dream life in Silverwood. Dream life. I laughed, though the sound was bitter. You mean the one where I've sacrificed everything to chase my dreams while you sat back and played the dutiful daughter? I wasn't even invited to the last family gathering. Don't pretend any of this is fair. Both of us have been working hard, but you need to understand that this is how it is. Just accept it, she shot back. Her voice cracked, and I could see the tears welling up in her eyes. No, I will not accept it. My voice trembled, but I pushed on. You do not get to decide what is fair and what is not. I deserve a chance too. I poured my heart into that house while you just visited. My sister's jaw tightened as if she were biting back words. She uncrossed her arms and took a step toward me, face contorting with anger. You think you deserve everything, you always have. Do you even remember that mother and father have always favored me? All their attention went to my accomplishments. You never acknowledged any of it. A rush of emotions surged inside me, deep anger and bittersweet memories colliding. I held up my hand. You know what? This isn't about who our parents loved more. I clenched my fist to suppress my shaking as I felt the edges of my resolve fraying. You don't get to act like I am the villain here. You knew how much this meant to me, and yet you still went behind my back to take what's mine. I was there, Amelia. I was there when you were busy chasing your so-called dreams, running away from everything we had. You turned your back on this family. Her voice was rising, echoing in the quiet room, the distant patter of rain suddenly feeling ominous, my chest tight. I did not run away. I was trying to build something for myself. I had dreams, not just dreams of inheritance or property. I wanted to make something of my life. Each word felt like a dagger aimed at the heart of our sibling bond. Rain streaked down the window, reflecting the turmoil brewing inside me. Good for you, but you're not a part of this family anymore. You're just a ghost haunting the periphery. She snapped, her voice was filled with disdain. If you really cared about this family, you would have stayed. Cared? You think everything is so black and white for you, don't you? I retorted, my heart pounding in my chest. You think that just because I didn't plant my feet firmly here and stay through everything, I don't care at all. I have dreams too, and all I wanted was for my family to see me. In that moment, the air around us felt electric, charged with bitterness. She shook her head, a bitter smile curling at the corners of her lips. Too bad, you should have thought about that before you left. That's it, isn't it? You'd rather invoke pain than reconcile. My voice cracked, the accusation hanging heavy in the room. Do you think I am dirt just because I won't play your little games? Look at this house. I gestured around, the living room so painfully familiar yet now suffused with resentment. It's a house filled with secrets. You think it's yours alone to control and inherit. What do you think it means to us? It's our family home. My sister narrowed her eyes, her expression icy. Family home? She scoffed. You mean the place where I learned hard work and you learned nothing? It's mine. This is the price you pay for abandoning us. You should have appreciated what you had rather than chasing some semi-florid dream. The silence that followed felt unbearably heavy, almost tangible. Tears stung the corners of my eyes as the unfairness of it all crashed down upon me. The betrayal ran deeper than I had anticipated, twisting like a knife in my gut. You're right, I finally said, the defiance in my voice faltering. I should have stayed, but I was trying to make a name for myself, not to run away. You think it's easy, she rolled her eyes as if trying to dismiss my pain. You just do not get it, she said with a dismissive wave. You want to fight for something you cannot have because you made your choice? Choice? What about your choice to betray me? You want everything without considering what it costs me. I felt the heat rise to my cheeks, heart pounding in defiance against her dismissal. This was my home too, and you have pushed me out of something we both need to share. Then why did you choose to disappear? You think it was easy for me, she shouted back, her voice filled with venom. You think I wanted this weight of responsibility alone? All I wanted was recognition. The intensity of her words hung heavy in the air. You want recognition? Why should I help you when you made this impossible? I demanded, feeling a mixture of weariness and determination swell inside me. Instead of thinking we could work together, you chose to argue, to shout, to let anger decide how you want everything. And for what? To push me away. Just then, the front door swung open and our father stepped in, soaked from the rain, his expression shifting from concern to confusion as he took in the fraught atmosphere. What is going on here? He asked, his voice steady yet filled with authority. My sister instantly straightened up, brushing away tears, masking the chaos swirling between us. Nothing, father, just a discussion, my sister replied in a tone so sweet it made my stomach turn. Isn't that right, Amelia? I shot her a glare, my chest tightening as I felt the secret understanding pass between us. A last-minute season finale deception. Yeah, just a discussion, I muttered as I looked away, feeling the weight of unspoken words filling the space between us. I need you both to be civil, especially with the inheritance meeting coming up. His eyes darted between us, but I could see the disappointment nestled in the corners of his gaze. The feelings in the room shifted, spiraling like an uncontainable tempest. Civil, I repeated, the sharpness creeping back into my voice. It is hard to be civil when everything I built is being taken away without a second thought. Enough, this is not the time or place, my father boomed, the sound sending a shiver down my spine. We will discuss this later. Whether you like it or not, you are still sisters. The finality of his words echoed in my ears, and I clenched my fists, feeling completely trapped. The clock ticked painfully loud in the silence that followed, marking the time we could not reclaim. Despite the moment passing, my heart raced with the urgency of a secret I had to reveal. Daddy, there is something she needs to know, I began, though my voice was quiet. I do not think now is the time to air grievances, Amelia, he said gently, his brow furrowing in worry. I felt a knot in my stomach tight. This was my only shot. No, you do not understand. I have something important, some things you do not. About the inheritance. What? My sister's voice dipped, the sudden curiosity catching her off guard. You mean there is some dark secret hiding in our family history? My father demanded, suddenly intent. What do you know that we do not? The atmosphere crackled with urgency as the narrative shifted, our inner tensions faltering momentarily. I took a deep breath, every ounce of my being urging me to uncover the truth, to conquer the fears holding me back. Mother left a letter, I blurted out, locking eyes with my sister who had gone rigid. It was about the family estate, the distribution of everything that you assume belongs to you. A stunned silence followed, I could almost hear the clock ticking louder. What do you mean? My sister rebounded, the cracks in her confident facade now glaringly visible. A letter? You're making this up? No, I said firmly. I am not, and it changes everything, including how you think this is all yours. I felt a surge of pride mingled with adrenaline, the desire for truth overtaking my sister's disappointment. Both their eyes were locked onto mine, the ever-present tension now shifting into something more profound. You better reclaim what you lost, sister, I whispered, my voice full of unyielding determination. Because what I found will definitely shake the ground you're standing on. But before I could share the details, there was a sudden thunderous crack of thunder, like a fist hitting the window. I could see the storm breaking outside, wreaking havoc on the world beyond our crumbling facade. My heart raced wildly as my sister took a cautious step closer to me, sensing my resolve. What else is in that letter? Her voice trembled slightly, worry lurking in her eyes. Before I could answer, my father cleared his throat. Let's discuss this over dinner. We need to sort out our feelings first. But I could see the anticipation etched in both of their faces, emotions swirling in a cocktail of uncertainty. I needed them both to understand what truly lay ahead. The storm outside was a fitting backdrop for the brewing conflicts within our family, each of us caught in an intricate web of betrayal, pride, and unspoken truths that could unravel everything we thought we knew. As I caught my sister's eye, a moment passed between us, a promise of an impending showdown where everything would change. I leaned closer, fixing her with my gaze. You think you have the upper hand, just wait until the storm hits and I reveal the truth. I whispered, my heart thundering against my ribs as I felt the weight of the moment. This was just the beginning, the storm was coming, and I was ready to unleash my revenge. I'm standing in the living room, my heart racing as I brace myself for the confrontation that is about to unfold. The air is thick with unspoken words, filled with an electric tension that wraps around me like a suffocating blanket. I glance around, taking in the familiar surroundings. The dark wooden furniture, the family portraits lining the walls, and the intricate rug beneath my feet, each piece a reminder of the life we built together. Yet behind each cherished memory lies a resentment that has slowly festered, an undercurrent of betrayal that I can no longer ignore. My father is pacing, hands shoved deep in his pockets, his brow furrowed. He looks so much like the man I grew up idolizing, yet right now I barely recognize him. My sister stands to his right, arms crossed tightly, her face a mask of defiance. I can feel her resentment, the way she channels our parents' favoritism into disdain. My mother is seated on the sofa, her eyes darting between my father and my sister, a mixture of anxiety and irritation painting her features. The betrayal I feel gnaws at my insides, a bitter taste I cannot shake. Amelia, my mother finally speaks, breaking the silence, her voice thin and tremulous. This has gone too far, you need to understand why we made the decisions we did. Her eyes are pleading, but I refuse to let the pity influence me. Understand? You mean the decision to cut me off? How do you expect me to understand when it feels so unfair? I can hear the tremor in my voice, a clear sign of my frustration, but I push through. Do you even realize how much I have sacrificed for this family? My father stops pacing, his eyes narrowing at me, and I can see the anger bubbling beneath the surface. Sacrificed? You think you're the only one who has carried a burden? He raises his voice, the room vibrating with aggression. We invested thousands in your education. Do you ignore the countless times we skipped vacations to save for your future? You chose to walk away and now you act like a victim. The mention of money hits like a blow, twisting in my gut. The $50,000 they spent feels like a chain around my neck, dragging me back to a life I tried to break free from. That money has chains, Father. It's not about the money, it's about how you always chose my sister over me. You've always favored her. I argue, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. You know what? I am done bending over backward for you or anyone else in this family. It is your love that comes with conditions. The words sound stronger than I intended, but the truth lies heavy in the air. My sister's expression morphs into one of unexpected kindness, but it quickly flickers to defiance again. You think it's easy to stand by and watch you throw everything away? We were never going to let you ruin our family reputation. She snaps, her chin jutted forward defiantly. You think everyone is against you, Amelia, but maybe you need to take a good look in the mirror. Well, let's look at the mirror then. I take a step closer, the heat of the moment heightening my adrenaline. Tell me, sister, what is it like to be the favored child? Does it feel good? Does it bring you peace? Because I did not want your favor, I just wanted fairness. I can see my words hit her. There's a flicker of recognition in her eyes, a glimpse of vulnerability before she hardens again. You are acting selfishly, you think this is just about you. Her voice rings with an authority that astounds me. It's called family loyalty, and you wouldn't know what that means, would you? My throat constricts, anger and hurt mixed together like a toxic cocktail. I can feel my hands shaking, but I take a deep breath, fighting to steady my voice. Loyalty, is that what you call this twisted mess? You think I'm selfish, but no one is mentioning how you refuse to let me be a part of this family. You always hid the truth, you always forced me out. The favoritism you show is suffocating. Stop. My mother interjects, her expression tight with a mix of frustration and fear. She stands up, trying to restore order, but the tension lies unbearable. Can't we just sit down and talk about this? This is tearing us apart. Nothing will ever change if you don't listen, I shoot back, my voice almost a whisper, filled with profound hurt. I didn't come here to win a favor, I came to speak my truth. My father shakes his head as if trying to shake off my words. Do you not see the sacrifices we make? We did it for you, all of us did. And you throw my sacrifices in my face instead of taking a look at your own hypocrisy. It's pathetic. I fear I am losing control, but I can't stop myself. I want them to feel my pain for once. I want them to understand the depth of the wounds they inflicted. My father's face tightens, every line of his features speaking of disappointment. You are overreacting, Amelia. You need to stop this nonsense. We were protecting you. Protecting me, protecting yourself. You've been shielding your precious reputation while pretending that your family was a safe space. I can't be what you want me to be. I won't keep up this facade. The room falls silent, the air heavy with unsaid words and suppressed anger. My sister turns to my mother, her face contorted in disbelief, as if grasping the truth that she always knew but refused to acknowledge. I can feel the shift in the atmosphere, a seismic change that opens the floodgates to years of pent-up resentment. You never loved her like you love me, my sister finally whispers, her voice breaking the silence like a raw nerve exposed. You always saw her as the one who would fail. That is not true, my mother shoots back, but it only sounds weak, defensive. I always believed in both of you, but I had to be practical. Practical? By dismissing me, I can't keep my voice steady. You chose to treat me like a burden. Maybe I should have known my worth was never enough. My father looks as though he has been struck. He stares at me, mouth slightly agape, caught off guard by the depth of my words. You do not understand the hardship we went through. The choices we made were for the best, he finally says, but I hear the hesitance. You cut me off, you buried me in an inheritance that should have been shared among us all. You have run this family like a business, but I am your daughter. I am shaking now, the heat rising from my chest to my face, and tears are threatening to spill. I won't let them. You taught us that life is about fairness, and yet you chose favoritism. I feel a whirlwind of emotions, betrayal, hurt, anger, mixed together until all I can feel is the fire in my veins. My mother's face pales, and I know I am getting to her. Amelia, I know you don't get to interrupt me this time. Do you even realize how many times I showed up for this family? I've bent over backward for every single one of you. The dynamic has changed so drastically now. I feel my heart racing, each pulse echoing like a drum in this standoff. My father sighs heavily, running a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his posture. There are other things to consider. This is not merely about you. His dismissal feels like a slap. Not merely about me. What am I then? Just a pawn in your little game? You are exaggerating. Am I? I shoot back, my voice almost cracking. I refuse to be a prisoner of your expectations any longer. You want to break me, you want to mold me into what you think is perfect, but that is not who I am. You need to choose between your image and your actual family. I am practically shouting now, the walls echoing my rising voice. The silence that follows feels oppressive. I can see their disbelief, their discomfort, their reluctance to face the truth laid bare in front of them. My sister finally speaks, her voice barely a whisper. Maybe you should just leave. If you feel that way, then perhaps you don't belong here. And if I leave, what happens next? You continue casting me aside like a shadow, like I never mattered to you. I take a step back, my chest tightening. The sharpness of her words weighs heavily. The coldness is suffocating, and I stand there, fighting the tears that threaten to spill. You want me to leave? Fine, that just makes this so much easier. Confrontation hangs in the air, a fragile glass ready to shatter. In that moment, I realize that no amount of money or property can replace the love and connection I desperately crave. I look at my family, searching for a hint of understanding, a glimmer of empathy perhaps, but I am met with cold, hard stares. Do what you want, sister, my sister says, her voice now tinged with bitterness. You always do, it's always about you. You know what? You can keep your family favors and titles. They mean nothing to me. I turn and storm toward the door, my heart pounding against my ribs. I need air, I need to escape this suffocating atmosphere. But as I reach for the doorknob, a heavy tension swells behind me, and just before I step out, I hear my father's voice break, trembling with emotion. Amelia, wait, but I open the door before he can finish. The loud creak echoes like a gunshot through the heavy silence. I step outside, closing the door firmly behind me, and the sound of it slamming feels like the finality of a chapter closing. I hear my mother's voice, a desperate, fractured whisper. Don't go, Amelia, we can fix this. I don't turn back. My chest feels tight as I walk away, each step heavier than the last, each word exchanged cutting deeper than any knife ever could. I do not look back. The darkness envelops me as I walk away from the house, the weight of betrayal crashing over me like thunder. I feel powerful yet defeated, driven by the need for justice and a craving to reclaim my voice. With every step, I replay the encounter in my mind, but instead of feeling hollow, I find a flicker of determination. I will not be silenced any longer. And though this battle feels far from over, I am ready to fight. I hear a soft breeze whistle through the trees, whispering promises of change. As I take my first step away from the house that has been both a sanctuary and a prison, I close my eyes and resolve to reclaim everything they might have taken from me piece by piece. The impending storm within me brews strongly. I sense the winds of vengeance beginning to turn.